Because firefighters must often dress rapidly to respond to an alarm, they should learn to don and doff their protective clothing in a set order. Not only does such a donning routine save time, but it also reduces the possibility of omitting an article of clothing, such as gloves or hood. Items placed in the protective gear pocket should be placed in the same pocket each time, so that the firefighter will not have to search through the pockets to find an item in an emergency. First, step into the boot, trouser, and suspender unit. Stand up and pull up the trousers. Fasten the trousers at the waist and adjust the suspenders over your shoulders. Next, don your protective hood. Put it over your head and pull it down around your neck and shoulders. Your gloves should be placed in a readily accessible location. Now don your protective coat. Close it completely and then turn up the collar. Position the SCBA in front of you ready for donning. Check the cylinder pressure. The pressure should be at least 90% of its rated capacity. Check the regulator gauge. Some SCBA units are outfitted with a remote gauge. Open the cylinder valve slowly and listen for the audible alarm as the system pressurizes. If the audible quarter service alarm does not sound, or it sounds but does not stop, place the unit out of service. Because there are numerous manufacturers of SCBA, the audible alarm may not sound on some styles when the cylinder valve is opened. Each firefighter must be familiar with the operation of his particular unit. Don the SCBA in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations. Secure all straps. Properly position the facepiece. Check the exhalation valve. Check the facepiece seal. And attach the low-pressure tube to the regulator, or attach the regulator and air line to the facepiece, depending on the style of SCBA. Finally, activate the pass device. Place the hood and helmet in the proper position for fireground operation. And adjust the under chin strap. Secure the collar of the protective coat around the neck. Finally, don your gloves. This skill sheet video clip is for sample purposes only. The procedures outlined here may not be applicable to your compressor purifier system. Always check the compressor purifier manufacturer's instructions before attempting to fill any cylinders. When air cylinders will be depleted many times every month for training or for firefighting, it is a distinct advantage for a department to refill its cylinders directly from its own compressor purification system. A complete air supply system is composed of 4 elements: a compressor, a purification system, a storage system, often a cascade system, and a fill station. Always check the compressor purifier manufacturer's instructions for filling cylinders before attempting to fill any cylinders, and follow the standard safety precautions. Put the cylinder in a shielded fill station. Prevent overheating by filling slowly, and make sure that the cylinder is pressurized to its rated capacity. Check the hydrostatic test date of the cylinder. The test date will be located as a label on composite cylinders or die-stamped on steel or aluminum cylinders. Inspect the SCBA cylinder for damage, such as deep nicks, cuts, gouges, or discoloration from heat. It is important to note that if the cylinder is damaged or out of hydrostatic test date, remove the cylinder from service and tag it for further inspection and hydrostatic testing. Place the SCBA cylinder in a fragment-proof fill station. Connect the high-pressure hose to fill the cylinder. Make sure that the hose bleed valve is closed. Open the SCBA cylinder valve. Turn on the compressor purifier and open the outlet valve. Set the cylinder pressure adjustment on the compressor, if applicable, or manifold to the desired full cylinder pressure. If there is no cylinder pressure adjustment, you must watch the pressure gauge on the cylinder during filling to determine when it is full. Open the manifold valve if applicable and again check the fill pressure. Open the fill station valve and begin filling the SCBA cylinder. Airflow should be slow, 300 to 600 psi or 2100 kPa to 4200 kPa per minute to avoid excessive heating of the cylinder. Close the fill station valve when the cylinder is full, at least 90% rated capacity. Close the SCBA cylinder valve. Open the hose bleed valve to bleed off excess pressure between the cylinder valve and the valve on the fill station. Failure to do so could result in O-ring damage. Disconnect the fill hose from the SCBA cylinder. Remove the SCBA cylinder from the fill station and return the cylinder to proper storage. With care and caution, a firefighter can change an air cylinder at the scene of an emergency so that the equipment can continue to be used. Changing cylinders can be either a one-person or a two-person job. This video clip describes the one-person method for changing an air cylinder. When there are two people, the firefighter with an empty cylinder simply positions the cylinder so that it can be easily changed by the other firefighter. Disconnect the regulator from the facepiece, or disconnect the low-pressure hose from the regulator. Doff the unit. Have a full air cylinder ready to reconnect. Close the cylinder valve on the used bottle. Release the pressure from the high-pressure hose. On some units, the pressure must be released by breathing down the regulator, opening the mainline valve, or operating the purge valve. Refer to the manufacturer's instructions for the correct method for the particular unit. Disconnect the high-pressure coupling from the cylinder. If more than hand force is required to disconnect the coupling, repeat the releasing of the high-pressure hose and then again attempt to disconnect the coupling. Lay the hose coupling on the tarp, directly in line with the cylinder outlet. This will serve as a reminder so that the replacement cylinder can be aligned correctly and easily. Be sure that grit or liquids do not enter the end of the unprotected high-pressure hose prior to attaching it to the cylinder outlet valve. Release the cylinder clamp and remove the empty cylinder while protecting the cylinder valve threads. Place the new cylinder into the backpack. Position the cylinder outlet. Lock the cylinder into place. For some cylinders, it may be necessary to rotate the cylinder 1/8 turn to left. This protects the high-pressure hose by lessening the angle of the hose and prevents twisting. Check the cylinder valve opening and the high-pressure hose fitting for debris. Check the condition of the O-ring. Clear any debris from the cylinder valve opening by quickly opening and closing the cylinder valve or by wiping the debris away. Replace the O-ring if it is distorted or damaged. Connect the high-pressure hose to the cylinder valve opening. Do not over-tighten. Hand tightening is sufficient. Open the cylinder valve. Check the gauges on the cylinder and the regulator. It is important to note that both gauges should register within 100 psi or 700 kPa of each other when the cylinder is pressurized to its rated capacity. If increments are in other measurements, such as fractions or minutes, they should correspond. Some units require that the mainline valve on the regulator be opened in order to obtain a gauge reading. Seal the regulator port by placing a hand over it. On a positive pressure regulator, the port must be sealed for an accurate regulator gauge reading. Don the hood, SCBA, facepiece, helmet, and gloves. Ensure that the pass device is rearmed and operational. Report to the officer in charge for reassignment.